Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Sunday Brunch. I am your host today, Chris Parrish, alongside with Prairie Pro Wrestling's own Bobby Munson. Bobby, how are you doing? Thank you for joining.
I'm doing fantastic. Been sitting here for quite a few hours now because I forgot that I live in Brock Lesnar, Saskatchewan, the land time forgot about. And so when the times changed everywhere else across the country, we stood still in our own time. So it's actually noon here instead of 11 in the morning like it usually is for us. But yes, here I am. Glad to be here.
I mean, I am going to say we always think of Saskatchewan as being that weird one in the Canada. You kind of are the redheaded stepchild of the Canadian provinces. And
no offense taken.
Does that even make any sense to you that there's only one province that in Canada that doesn't even have daylight savings?
It's absolutely bizarre.
It's just the dumbest thing. In my opinion, that and I don't know, time zones. The
only advantage it ever had to me was anytime that time changes and I come driving over into your province of Alberta and I actually start gaining hours in that process. That's the times I love having that happen.
Yeah, right. You're going full Back to the Future. You're just absolutely saving on that time. Speaking of saving time, you can save some time on your own if you just got the right information. And what I mean by that is if you go to a gym, you may get a bad I don't want to say a bad training, but you might get some bad advice. But if you go to RK Athletics 1 right there and you go and check out Rich, and you go and get his advice, you're getting the right advice. You're not going back. You're actually going forward, and you're going to take a giant leap into getting a better physique, maybe one like his, one of the best I've ever seen. But you're also going to learn how to eat right. You're going to learn how to just be a healthier human being. And if by chance you're not in the same area as him, he does provide a lot of online services. So go check out RK Athletics today. Bobby, I know we're kind of having this weird little, it's just you and I, right? We don't know what to talk about. So I'm going to ask you this. It's Sunday Brunch. I'm going to try something different.
Go for it.
Bobby, since we are both in the lines of professional wrestling, you with Prairie Pro, I'm with World Championship Wrestling, I want to know what actually made you want to get involved in the pro wrestling circuit and what actually captivated you about it.
Well, I mean, I could go on for a real long story here.
Well, we have time to kill.
we really do. I guess the love would have started as a kid when I really wanted to be a pro wrestler and stuff like that. And I took an interest into it then. And then I just, life got in the way. I pushed, there we go. I pushed it aside for so long. And then I got into my 30s. And I started to do wrestling journalism a little bit. I started writing for a company called Culture Vultures out of the UK, doing reviews and stuff like that. And then High Impact Wrestling here in Saskatoon were putting on shows. And I was fortunate enough to be let in a little bit by El Asesino and Dice Steel at the time. Kind of showed me a little bit of what was going on, had me do some writing for them. That developed into filming and doing shows and programs. And bit by bit, I just became more involved and more interested. And as a result of my interest in doing that, I figure if I'm going to do commentary and filming, I better step in there and find out what it's like to get inside the ring just a little bit. So I got in, I did a weekend class and stuff like that, what we call a boot camp here in wrestling training. And then behind the scenes, progressively, as we've developed pro and everything, I have been inside the ring doing the odd little thing here and there. I'm not a full trained wrestler or anything by any means, but it was that love of continuing to do this kind of stuff. I really enjoy it. I love being on camera as much as I love being behind the camera and putting shows together. It is a very unique experience, and I recommend it to anybody who has an interest in pro wrestling in any way, just to help out any local wrestling promotion in any way you can.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that latter part any better. It was really cool. I also want to make sure that I'm letting the chat know that, hey, you know what? I want to try something a little bit different. I've been doing this a little bit lately, but if anybody in the chat wants to ask us anything, wants to maybe bring up some topics of their own, please don't be afraid. Do so. We're kind of curious because Bobby, you and I both come and we watch different things. We come from different backgrounds, but it's pro wrestling that brought us together. I know you're a big MLW fan, and I know a lot of times you don't get a good chance to talk about MLW. So
That's true.
I want to know what happened in this past week of MLW. For anybody who didn't get a chance to see it or maybe doesn't watch it, and again, maybe just let everyone know where they can actually go and find it, because I know personally I don't get a lot of MLW, and I'd always like to know a little bit more about it.
For sure. First and foremost, you actually can get it for free every Wednesday on YouTube. MLW Fusion Alpha is their weekly programming. It's about an hour long to, say, an hour and 5 minutes to each program. They have been doing this for quite some time now. They just did another set of tapings in Philadelphia yesterday. So please, if anybody knows spoilers, stay out of the room. Don't spoil it for us. They've got a lot going on. They're right in the midst of the 2021 Opera Cup. And I guess I'll take the floor on this one for a minute. The Opera Cup is actually a traditional wrestling cup that used to be contested in the old opera houses back in the early 1900s. And it ended up ending about 1939 when Stu Hart was the last one to ever win the Opera Cup tournament. So Harry Smith himself actually had found the Opera Cup in the old Hart family house there when they were cleaning things up, and asked about it, found out about the lineage of it. And then he went to MLW and said, we should bring this back. This was a few years ago. So they had the people who take the Stanley Cup and they do all the restoration work on the Stanley Cup. They had them redo the original Opera Cup. So it is the original Opera Cup that is in contention. And so the tournament is being contested right now. We're down to 4 competitors if watching on MLW Fusion Alpha. So they did the last 2 opening round matches on the last program there. Calvin Tankman is in question whether or not he will get to continue his semifinal matchup. But again, in the background, there's a guy, Alex Kane, who's been named as a possible substitute to someone who made an attack there on Calvin Tankman. So they're kind of teasing the idea that Kane is going to sneak his way into the tournament. Tournament also features Bobby Fish is still in it right now. We do have TJP and Davey Richards as well. So, I mean, some great contenders there going for that MLW Opera Cup Championship. I was going to just say, aside from that, they're looking to crown a new national open weight champion. as well, because Hammer had given that belt up after he won the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Bobby Fish, who just made his debut in All Elite Wrestling, also became a member of the MLW roster, but so did one Enzo. And I just wanted to ask, how are those two already, like, how are they incorporating their styles in MLW, and how do they fit? Because they're two very different performers. And it was very interesting not only to hear Enzo, but it was kind of a little bit of like, oh, okay, when I heard about Bobby Fish joining. And also shout out to Alex Kane, who I know has also done a lot of stuff with Love Wrestling in the past and just being a guest host. So, always a good plug for a friend of the show.
Yeah, Alex Kane's fantastic. So MLW, the reason they call themselves Fusion is because they're a fusion of different styles of wrestling. So it's not just, technical style or anything like that. They've got lucha style is heavily influenced in their they do go for the entertainment side to a certain degree and stuff like that too. So they try to fuse all these different styles of pro wrestling together. And that's how Enzo comes in. He has not made his debut yet, other than, again, spoilers from yesterday on November 6th. So they would have had the tapings there. We're going to get to see on Fusion Alpha coming up down the road. So very curious to see how they implement him into the mix and stuff like that. Should be very, very unique anyway. But yeah, you're talking about Bobby Fish. So Bobby Fish has been implemented as a very technical guy with his MMA background and training there and stuff like that. So he's got a technical background coming into his matches for MLW. He worked his first one with another AEW signing, Lee Moriarty, who has also been having some great technical matches there, and his first two matches with MLW as well too. So a lot of great things they're doing with those guys. Yeah,
and I think Lee Moriarty is actually also doing a little bit more with AEW as well. So it's always kind of nice to have that connection between the two. I don't know if there's a working relationship per se with these two, but it's always nice to kind of like, okay, I get an introduction to this guy, but then I can go somewhere else to get a little bit more about him. It really strikes me very similar to how I found out about Ring of Honor back in the early 2000s. Just knowing if, actually one of the first guys is Brian Kendrick. When I saw him as when he was starting to do the tag team with Paul London, I knew that he wrestled stuff before. I just didn't know where Ring of Honor came. He was kind of my introduction to Ring of Honor, and then that's where I became fans of the Roderick Strong, CM Punk's, Bryan Danielson's, Samoa Joe's, Homicide, all those amazing talents. Who's somebody in the MLW world? Maybe let's refrain from Hammerstone, which I think he is
for sure,
the obvious one. Just because I don't even watch it and I'm aware of Hammerstone.
Yeah.
But who do you say is maybe that diamond in the rough in MLW right now that people might not be talking about right now, but keep an eye out on them. And also, I was talking about friends of the show. We can never forget the beautiful Alicia too, as well, because
of course.
One of the nicest people in the world. So
okay, well, I'm going to give you two right now.
Okay.
First of all, this guy is brand new to MLW. He was an NXT trainee that they had released, that they are doing great things with over in MLW. The Judge EJ Nduka. This guy is built this guy is chiseled out of something of the gods. This guy looks like a pro wrestler of the past. He moves like a pro wrestler of the present, and he talks a good game. He is fantastic. Somebody with a little bit more experience, though, is going to be Richard Holiday. So where this guy comes in, Richard Holiday, Alexander Hammerstone, and a little known guy, I don't know if anyone's aware of him, MJF, used to have a faction in MLW called the Dynasty. And so the three of them were together. And so when MJF went off to AEW, it left Hammerstone and Richard Holiday as the remaining two members of the Dynasty. They have some very comical back and forth between the two of them, too. Holiday can be quite entertaining on the entertainment side, but he's built very well. He works really well in the ring. He talks extremely well, too. So, this guy's got the full package. I think with a little bit more development, people will eventually see him start to seep through into an AEW or something like that, and we'll really get to know him. And I think that immediately people are going to click with Richard Holiday.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I think what I love about professional wrestling, and I think it's safe to say, we know that there's two major companies out there. There is WWE, and now there's AEW. They're on TV every week in the national broadcast. So safe to say they are the two biggest
we could
in North America.
You can argue New Japan. Yeah, North America.
There, yeah. But so it's kind of like just a relevating way to seeing other companies doing well and making them point. Do you think MLW is now prone to become that next kind of generational? I'm sorry, not generational, but more of the generator of talent, kind of like what Ring of Honor was. Now that we heard all the news about Ring of Honor lately, I'm like, do you think MLW is going to be kind of like that mainstream #1 indies in the United States now?
I think there is a great argument to be made for that case. I know that not everything's been announced, but Court Bauer's been working very tirelessly to continue to promote MLW and get it to the next level. He's made some comments that he's had some meetings recently about taking it to the next level as well, too. So I think you're right on the money there. I mean, especially with ROH taking a hiatus, hopefully it's only a hiatus, but they will be a perfect opportunity for a breeding ground for new talent. And as you see, obviously some of the talent they have there already is already doing some work with AEW as well. So, I mean, there seems to be that open door between those two companies, but MLW's always been a bit of an open door with working with other companies. I mean, they have a direct link working with All Japan. They've brought talents from New Japan in as well. They work a lot with AAA out of Mexico and as well too. So a lot of those belts are MLW belts are defended all across the world, and then again, titles from those companies are actually brought back to MLW to bring a nice international flair to their brand. So I think as more eyes get upon it and more people realize, hey, there is an hour show that you can recap on YouTube anytime, every single week with some great wrestling matches and great entertainment, I think the rise will continue for MLW as long as they keep on the beaten path that they're on right now.
Yep. Very, very good at knowing. Like, I don't know, to me, it just seems like the game of pro wrestling is always changing. It's always evolving. So it's something that I wanted to know because I just, I hear more and more about MLW, and maybe it's because I see you every Sunday on brunch, and maybe that's it. I don't know. But one thing I wanted to do, we are going to get to a little clip recently. It's with our beautiful Zach at the Smart and Friends talking to Holden Upright. He talked about kind of the next chapter and kind of the next step. He's talking about Holden Upright, kind of on what maybe some advice that he gives some other wrestlers.
I've started talking to younger wrestlers, and I ask them, like, besides not wanting to be a loser, why do you want to win the match? And a lot of people don't know. Yeah, if you're fighting for a championship, you know why you want to win the match. But if this was a real boxing match or an MMA fight, if you win this match, you get more money. Money is the result of everything in life. And the Holden Albright character, this is where I'll go a little promo-ish. It's, I want to be remembered. And it's not championships and accomplishments or victories. It's from my victims. Oh, sorry, my opponents. When they look at this, when they look at the scar on my arm, they know that I gave it to them, or the scar on their arm. They know I gave it to them. When they wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats, they are thinking of Holden Albright. I'm going to give you more time to spend with your family. The first couple of weeks are going to be in a hospital room, though. I know I will take 210 of your punches. I don't know if you can take 200 of mine. I don't know who's going to win, but I know, banged or bruised, I'm going to walk into my next show the next day. I'm going to walk into training that week. I'm going to walk into training the week before the match. I'm going to keep going because I choose pain. Wrestling was there for me when I had nothing in my life. When everyone else, and this is just Brendan Caulfield, and I realized this recently, actually, when everyone else had family that supported them and hugged them and said, I loved you, and showed they loved you, I had nothing. Like, I have parents, I have a sister, but they weren't there for me when I needed them. But Stone Cold was there with a steel chair. Hardcore Holly and Al Snow were there with a hardcore 24/7 rule. And then I realized, oh, man, I'm broken because of this. But luckily, I like stand-up comedy, too. So I enjoy a little John Panetta, a little Russell Peters, and it balances itself out, I think. Maybe bipolar. Not sure yet.
Holden Albright, always a character there. It was so good to actually finally meet him at the Change the Game Love Wrestling's first pro wrestling show.
Quick question for you then, Parrish.
Yeah.
Though, based on what we just heard there, what makes you want to win when you're inside that ring?
Because I'm too competitive. I don't like losing. If I don't know, like it's not. But then again, like lately, if you followed me, I don't win a lot anymore. So it's not been fun. I kind of beat up a lot, as the scar on my eye will kind of let you know. But no, I mean, I think too, when you want to become better at something, you understand, like, yeah, you can learn a lot through a loss, but I do think like, you get more accomplishments through wins. And if you care about getting to that next step, you have to see a positive result in, and that's what a win represents, is that positive result. So yeah, that's why I want to win, because you don't get a title if you lose.
Sure.
You get a title when you win. So and that's just it. Like, a title represents a bigger opportunity, more money, more fame, all this more stuff. So yeah, if it's what that added thing, if you're not in the company to become the heavyweight champion, why are you there? Or the world champion?
There's something that could be said for enhancement talents too and stuff like that. People who know their place and know their position in professional wrestling, and they go out there and give everybody something fun to watch at the same time.
Sure, but if you're an enhancement talent, how often do you like getting the crap kicked out of you every time?
Hey, go and check out my podcast, and you'll hear from some enhancement talents that have zero problem getting the crap kicked out of them every time.
Oh, I know, but like, if you want to win, if you want to get to that next level, it's going to be very hard to do that if you're only settling to do
for sure
those things. So, for me, like, I know there definitely are people that are just okay with being in the ring, and then, hey, if I win or lose, it is what it is. I gave it my all, and there's no shame to that. No. But if you're focused, if you're driven for something bigger, then yeah, the winning becomes a little bit more important. And you can always find your own narrative to why you want to win, I think. But yeah, good question. Like Astrid did say, as I'll pop it up on there, because we are not very heavy on the responses chat. Let's get on here. Let's make this work. We are about content. We need you to help us with the content.
Come on, people.
Yeah. Oh, we're relying on you because we got nothing here. Absolutely nothing. We're calling it on the stream. Speaking of calling it on the stream, I guess the big news coming out of this week was the John Moxley scenario with that. I know I talked with Alex a lot last night. How much of this have you heard, and are you able to share any light on that scenario or in that situation?
I don't know if I've heard everything exactly. Like, I hear that he's taken some time off due to mental health issues and everything like that. And again, I have nothing but sympathy with people who deal with mental health issues. I do myself, as you probably, anyone who tuned into the rest hold that we did weeks ago would know. And it is a never-ending battle that's hard to deal with. And especially, like, I mean, you yourself have been backstage at a pro wrestling show. I mean, it gets hectic, and that is just on a local level. I couldn't imagine on a large scale level when you're worrying about television times and stuff like that. It probably overwhelms a person. And if Moxley needs that time off to get his head straight and everything like that, then hey, take that time and come back better than ever. And I wish him nothing but the best. Yeah.
And we, again, this is just more of another way of letting people know, if you're new to maybe watching Love Wrestling, maybe if you didn't get to watch Reacts last night, if you are struggling with anything, always know that it's okay to ask for help. It's actually, you're actually a stronger human being if you ask for help. There's no shame, and we all hope to do that. There's always somebody there who wants to help you. So never feel alone. That's the best takeaway there. On top of the John Moxley scenario, our situation, we had more talent releases.
We did.
You and I were talking a little bit off stream about it, and we're kind of similar in the thought process that it didn't feel as big, even though there were a couple big names. What were your overall thoughts on this? And as a big proponent of MLW, are there anyone who actually wants to see any of these release people in MLW?
All right. Well, that is a bunch of good questions there to ask. But yeah, so I mean, none of it really surprised me, as we were mentioning at the beginning. Again, like, WWE is notorious for releasing people. And again, if they're not currently using them in a great capacity, or they've taken a lot of time off, and thank you for the props on the shirt. So, sometimes this is just the way it goes, and it might be released for now, see what they do with their careers, and come back at a later time kind of thing. It's always been a bit of a revolving door in WWE for that exact reason. As for on the MLW side, geez, I'm looking at this list and thinking who fits the profiles, but obviously with their blend of what they do, Lince Dorado and Grand Metalik would fit in nicely with the luchador side of things for sure. I would love to see Ember Moon join their new featherweight division. They've started up the featherweight division, and unfortunately, just as they started it up, Nicole Savoy picking up an injury, keeping her out for about 8 weeks. So again, one of the stronger names that they brought into their featherweight division goes out immediately, and so they've had to pivot and try to go from there. Bringing in someone the talent of Ember Moon, I think, would be fantastic for that division right now.
Yeah, another some individuals at the Love Wrestling Show, Nicole Savoy, making sure she's gets a speedy recovery there. Hopefully, it's she's back stronger than ever too.
Yeah, and what a strange way to, like, watching the matchup when she got injured too against Holiday. It looks like it happened right at the end of the match while she was applying a submission, like her leg rolled the wrong way and ended up getting injured. So Holiday walked away, looking the better of the two, even though Nicole picked up the victory. And yeah, it was very sad to see her go down with injury because the match was fantastic, and I think that she was going to be featured heavily within that division.
Yeah, one name I wanted to throw at you in this was Onilorcan. Where do
that
you?
guy.
Yeah, do you think he fits MLW? And if not, where do you think he would go? Because I was thinking MLW, maybe even New Japan. But at the same time, I think in a weird way, he'd actually be one of the best fits in AEW.
That's fair. I was actually thinking more that going to the UK might be beneficial for Onilorcan and stuff like that. Going to somewhere like Rev Pro or something in the UK, I think would be very fitting to what he does. As for MLW, yeah, he could mix it up in there with some of the guys for sure. I don't see it being a problem or anything like that. I like Oni. I mean, he's so plain Jane, just hit him in the face kind of guy. But I mean, he goes 1,000 miles a minute, and man, he can brutalize a dude. So I really enjoy watching him, and I can't wait to see where he pops up.
Yeah, like I would love to see him and Bryan Danielson go just once. I think that'd be a very nice pace match.
Right.
I also just think it would be so cool to see him in a different environment. Like I know you're talking about the British scene in the UK. I think that was just so obvious that, like, for me, I kind of like when guys don't necessarily pick the obvious and kind of try something new.
Yeah.
To me, it really shows true confidence in an individual when they're like, you know what? Yeah, everybody expects this, so I'm going to give them that instead because I want to become better as a performer and it is as a talent myself. So I don't know. Like, to me, I just hope we get to see positivity with these people. Like a lot of these release individuals are very good at what they do, and I have absolutely no negative thought that they won't have success. Like they're all going to land on their feet somewhere. It's just a matter of where. But I mean, that's kind of what we love as fans, right? Having that unexpected surprise moment, that pop moment,
kind of like the unexpected moment that everyone's waiting for the return of Wyndham at some point in time here, like over and over.
Yeah, and you kind of saw, I think, where I was going. I wanted to kind of touch on that. The artist formerly known as Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, is now post 90 days. There's a lot of speculation that I've heard a lot of Impact. There's been, the white noise from Tony Khan saying, oh, yeah, we haven't really talked, which makes me think they've talked. So it's interesting because as someone who is thinking of pro wrestling on kind of a different side of things, where do you think is the best fit for Wyndham Rotunda?
For me, it really depends on where he goes. Like I was such a fan of Bray Wyatt when he first came out because his ability on a microphone is phenomenal. When the Fiend came about, I loved the idea, and I mean, I could go on forever about where I think he came up with that idea from and stuff like that. Anyone who watches sci-fi might know of a little show called Channel Zero, and all 4 of those seasons that they did pretty much tie right into the Fiend character. I'm pretty sure that's where he got his inspiration. But enough on that. I think if he's going to go with something cult-like, supernatural and stuff like that, sure, Impact or AEW is about the only ones with the production ability to carry it on the way that he does it and stuff like that. If he's going to go for something more in-ring and stuff like that, he's going to work on his in-ring talent. Then I think that maybe he'd be best traveled outside of North America, but I think he is a big enough name that I can't see that happening. I think either he's going to be a big, huge snap up for Impact Wrestling, or else it's going to be the obvious, and AEW is going to snag the guy, and we're going to see him heavily featured on AEW television.
Yeah, and I think maybe the obvious, like the truly obvious, is maybe that he goes to AEW and becomes the new leader of the Dark Order. Like, I think that's something that everyone has probably said at least once, just because of, one, they are a group that doesn't really have a leader. Two, the huge association between him and Brody Lee. And then, I mean, let's face it, everyone who gets released from WWE has to go to AEW. So, I mean, it's just like any hockey player that is good, who's a free agent, is going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, right? So...
No, I rolled my eyes a little when you said that, and I mean, people hate me if you want, but I am not a fan of the Dark Order. I think that is a mess of a group that's been put together. I think that a lot of the guys in it are not ready for television and shouldn't be featured in any sort of faction. And I really think that it would be a waste of Bray Wyatt's talent to tag these guys along, because it's gone so far down the path of ridiculous that I don't think it would fit into a more serious dark role that Wyndham Rotunda would bring to the table. I think that we need something fresh from him, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be a faction. I think that this is a solo act, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, personally, if I was booking, I'm very curious on watching Wyndham Rotunda against the Malachi Black. I think that's a very cool dynamic and a very interesting dynamic, but also a very complimentary one at best too. Now, I know we're talking about where we would like to see Wyndham Rotunda go, but here's a guy, another video clip, I'm going to spoil it, of a guy where we know where he's going. It's our own Lawrence talking to Speedball Mike Bailey, and it's not about him signing with Impact, but we know he's going to Impact. But, you know, check this out, because, I mean, very proud of Lawrence.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Love Wrestling. My name is Lawrence Cartier. My guest tonight is IWS and C4 champion and #1 BB impersonator, also the champion of all of our hearts, Speedball Mike Bailey. Speedball, how are you doing tonight?
Hello. Thank you so much for that intro, by the way. I'm doing great. You don't really know that I'm the #1 BB impersonator, do you? Like, there hasn't been a BB impersonation like tournament or something. And also, I should point out that BB is not a real person. So, like, I guess the person who does the original voice of BB is also a BB impersonator. And if you're watching this and wondering who he is, I just happen to have his head. So, hold on. It's behind me right now.
Yeah,
it's
there
in
it
weird
is.
colors. I don't know why it's purple, but I'm sure there was a good reason. So, this is the head of BB.
And this is the BB impersonation. And I'm very glad that we're starting on that tangent.
But yeah, he's a French-Canadian alien. Well, he's not a French-Canadian. He's a alien from a French-Canadian TV show.
I am finding out here for the first time that he's not real.
He is not real. No, he's not a real person. He is. So I'm going to be. We're not live here. BB is part of the extended Speed Fam Twitch canon.
Yeah.
But here, when we're off the stream, I can happily say that BB is not a real person, but he is but a puppet voiced by what I can only assume is a human.
That was my first time of finding out who BB was.
Mine too.
So I wasn't really too much understanding of what that was, but I mean, now I'm curious. I don't know. Like, I know you get a little bit older, and I think you kind of like, you know what, if it has a backstory, as silly it might be, I'm going to check it out.
I myself am not really into pop culture at all, so I don't. And I'm just pulling your leg.
I mean, my pop culture involves me doing things in the ring and getting my pops. That's my pop culture. So I don't know too much. Kind of the week that was with wrestling. So outside of those two, big news topics, there wasn't really a lot of big news that came out of professional wrestling. But I will say, if you watched any of the pro wrestling, man, the content was phenomenal. We kind of saw again week 2 now of the post WWE draft, and I will say Monday Night Raw has really stepped up. It's been some of the best Raws I've seen in the last 2 weeks in a long time. And whoever thought putting Finn Balor in a one-on-one match with Chad Gable and giving it time to go deserves a raise, because that was absolutely amazing. I was so happy to see Chad Gable get an opportunity here against a known star like Finn Balor. On top of that, we also saw Liv Morgan get teased that she can be the next challenger to Becky Lynch. So in a way of ducktailing from the releases, it's also nice to see kind of when we see these releases, what happens. And it's always, I think it's always safe to say in wrestling, okay, you can react to something emotionally now, but wait till see how it really affects everything. And now if we're seeing these other stars that, like the Liv Morgans, like a Chad Gables as examples, coming into the play and becoming major players or more important players, I don't think the releases were done badly. I think those were smart decisions, because clearly the company knew they had other featured talents that they wanted to get out. Who do you want to see a little bit more of when it comes to WWE? Who's someone that just sticks out and you're like, please just give this guy an opportunity. Just give him a shot. Run with him for a little bit.
Well, Jesus, now that you mention it, Chad Gable comes to mind immediately. He's such a great pure wrestler, and I always kind of felt sorry for him. He almost doesn't fit the WWE style sometimes, but like what you say, like I missed out on him and Finn getting some time in the ring and getting to go at each other. Like I think I might have to go back and watch some wrestling here today once we're off the stream, because
who would have thought you're going to come on brunch and say, I got to go check out Raw?
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked here. I mean, all joking aside, though, WWE, it's been hit or miss sometimes, especially in the last couple of years. But when they do it right, they do get some really nice stuff in there and everything. And I mean, at times, yeah, Finn is a great talent and puts on a great match, and given time to work with the right guys, like you get to see him against someone like Chad Gable. Like, damn, I'm sorry I missed that one. And again, Liv Morgan getting that push would be nice to see as well, too. I'm just trying to think of who's left on the roster and everything too that is still kicking around that isn't currently being utilized. I mean,
as you think, I'm also going to say this. We saw also on SmackDown Ricochet go one-on-one with Drew McIntyre, which I thought was really refreshing to see from a babyface standpoint for both. McIntyre came out and said, it's Friday, want to see an open challenge. Ricochet comes in and just says, hey, people have to slap him in the face. They slapped him in the face. And let me tell you something, McIntyre put a beating on him that he came back to. But, oh, my God, is there something about these two? Instant chemistry. And I'd like to see a little bit more. Ricochet, he's a diamond in the WWE mold that they really need to start getting behind, because that guy is one of the best natural athletes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there too. I kind of forgot that Ricochet was there, and I think that's currently one of the biggest problems with WWE is they have some of these fantastic talents just sitting on the sidelines with nothing to do, and then they finally get back out there, and we're like, well, shit, we've been waiting for these guys for quite some time. Like, let's give them the push that they deserve. And I mean, Ricochet is one of those hidden gems. I mean, he's going to put on a great show every single time. I remember first seeing him back in the Lucha Underground days as Prince Puma and thinking, man, this guy is one hell of a talent. I could imagine him going to the big leagues and being a world champion one day and stuff like that, just like he is in Lucha Underground. And again, another name that you bring forth, I'm like, well, damn, I forgot they still had him at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to get to a third of our fourth videos right now because, we're 40 minutes in. It's all about getting your shit in, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling but the one guy that we know we don't forget about is our very own Josh Robinson. Josh Robinson talks about one of his new shows coming up. So instead of me talking about it, because, well, nobody wants to hear me talk about what Josh is doing. We all want to hear from Josh. So let's hear from Josh.
Ladies, gentlemen, my non-binary friends, it is I, Josh Robinson here, your friendly neighbourhood gay Australian man, and JPJ and Pluggo have asked me to contribute to Between Two Beards. And the only way that they see fit is to do a 30 to 60 second little rant every single week, a little Josh Unhinged. So I thought, well, what grinds my gears, what gets me going? And the first thing that I want to talk about this week is not about wrestling, because who wants to talk about wrestling? We want to talk about life. We want to talk about things that make people pissed off. Even I had a personal glitch saying it because it makes me so mad. The thing that I want to talk about this week is that when people wear no shoes outside of their home, it's a thing here in this country for people to just walk around barefoot in a store or anywhere like that. It's disgusting. It's repulsive. Put some shoes on. Put some shoes on. The thing I want to talk about this week is putting some damn shoes on your feet. Feet are gross in general. I'm not a foot guy. It's disgusting. But if you want to pay me for some feet pics, you can do it. I will take your money. I will sell out for any kind of dollar. But that's for a different kind of video. The people that walk around barefoot outside of their homes are trash. They're trash people. So, you know, talk about that. Elaborate on that. How they're just disgusting human beings if you walk around barefoot. It's gross. Yuck. All right. Bye.
So I gotta ask, Bobby, are you a foot guy or?
Well, first of all, he's right. Feet are disgusting. But here's where I'll make an argument against Josh on this one. I like to walk barefoot on the grass outside of my house, not in a mall like he's talking about. That's absolutely disgusting and somewhat disturbing that even happens. But when it comes to just being outside and connecting with planet Earth a little bit more, it's nice to be barefoot on a nice dewy grass on a summer morning and stuff like that, especially if you're going out for a meditation or something, which I like to do and everything. Yeah, I don't mind it in that case, but yeah, Josh is right. Feet are gross, and don't walk around malls without shoes on. That's like, isn't there a no shirt, no shoes, no service policy in place anymore?
Well, can't they just find a shoe store and then go get some?
Yeah,
like that's like, I don't know.
Like even sandals. Come on, people.
I mean, if there's one piece of the body that I know nobody really takes care of that well, it's your feet, right? Like,
I dedicate some good time to the old feet of mine and stuff.
I know. I think I got like pieces of like 2x4s for feet now. Like they are.
No. Last Sunday, I had the most beautiful football. It was absolutely delightful.
Well, what great captivating conversations on Sunday Brunch we're having. I mean, but that's why I had to play that clip. It was absolutely hilarious. And well, let's face it, who doesn't love hearing from Josh every now and then?
Especially when he's unhinged.
Right. Because, who likes hinge Josh? And we want unhinged Josh. That's the best kind of Josh that there is. But one thing I did want to ask you with this, because we were in the topic of hidden gems, or maybe guys that we kind of forgot in there. I do want to kind of transition this to AEW, because one of the things that I find now with the influx of people they bring in that we now kind of don't get to see some of the guys that were there for maybe day one. I'm going to throw a name at you and kind of just see kind of where you stand with them. But where do you, what are your thoughts on the Bastard Pac?
I love his work. I really think that that's someone that if they're not heavily featuring, then they're making a huge mistake. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys that were there from day one that I could sit here and say I have no interest in. I don't have any interest in turning on my television for them. That's not the case with the Bastard Pac. I love his work. I think he's a great, intense promo. I think he physically looks like he's 3 times bigger than he actually is. And his in-ring work is absolutely immaculate. I mean, this guy should be pushed to the moon in AEW.
Yeah. And I say that because I would love to see him go to New Japan for a couple shows. I think that's one of the best guys that you don't really could go there and work with, whether it's your Okadas, whether it's, with their top guys, it's a plethora of guys out there. Maybe even like when Moxley was there, him as well. But like him and Kenta would just be really good. I just think that guy has so much untapped potential that we just don't get to see. And I thought this was really weird because I thought that we didn't see enough from him when he was in WWE. I'm finding a similar trend with him in AEW. I just want more. And it's not because I don't think he's capable of it. I think he's more than capable of it. It's just for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem like he's presented in that spotlight. So I just wanted to take this time to kind of just talk about him because he is someone who I have just absolutely been just in shock of since I first saw him. I talked about how Ricochet was one of the best athletes. This guy really is gonna, bet him buck for buck on that one. But like when it comes to the flying, when it comes to the technician, I mean, this guy might be one of the most complete, and the guy looks like $1 million. So it's just to me surreal that some of these companies, aren't strapping the rocket on his back, because I think he's more than capable of doing so.
Oh, for sure. And he's going to give you a quality pay-per-view match or weekly match, whatever it is that you put the guy into. WWE's fault with him, too, was trying to make him that lovable, nice baby face when they actually turned him in the cruiserweight division and everything. And he was there as the champion. He was phenomenal. I mean, it was great. It was a great feature. But again, I think that he could work with guys over and above that. He was working with guys that were maybe up and coming and stuff like that. I think he could have been more heavily featured in WWE. They let that slip through their fingers, and I think AEW is doing much of the same. Like they wanted to go for this more sports presentation when they started their company, and they've gotten so far away from that I think guys like Pac don't always fit what they're trying to pull off. And like you say, it probably more fitting to a New Japan or maybe a AAA, or even arguably going to like Rev Pro in the UK or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think there would be a lot of opportunity for a guy like that down there. I'm a big fan of like Australian wrestling and New Zealand wrestling too. I would love to see him go there and mix it up with some of the young up and coming talents that they have out there. I think they fit in beautifully, and maybe bring a little bit to the table there to help teach and get some of these new guys prepared, because I mean, especially in Australia, it's like a breeding ground for talent right now that are coming through.
Yeah, and we look at a lot of guys, like whether it was, Buddy Matthews, another one of those guys we can just sit here and talk about of what we want to see from him next, because I think that's a big one. Great Australian guy. I mean, and we talk about New Zealand. I mean, who doesn't love the Bushwhackers, right? So, but yeah, no, like I know the one match that if I'm just picking a fantasy one, I want to see Ilya Dragunov against Pac.
Oh, good God. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just give me that. To me, like I know Pac's probably never going back to WWE, but how good would that be? And then we can go Pete Dunne, Walter, Onilorcan would be another one. Like I'd love to see that. When we talk about that hard-hitting style, I'd like to see that one too.
Well, now that you throw that out there, I mean, it reminds me WXW in Germany was a place that Ilya Dragunov and Walter and some of those guys started out in, and they've had those smash mouth hard hitting matches out there. If Pac went down there to work with the talent there, I think there could be some phenomenal things done and some classic matches that come out of it. Yeah,
no, I 100% agree. As we're kind of sitting here, we're now touching the 50-minute mark. Who thought we could have gone this long with Jack, right? Just wanted to add, like, what are there anything like, that's like catching your eye or something that you really want to talk about? Because I'm going to kind of hand the platform over to you. I kind of maybe bring up the last and final topic here, but what's something, in it? Maybe it is just local wrestling. Go right ahead.
I mean, obviously, we know that we have a plethora of talent here in Western Canada that we could go on about for quite some time. And I think anyone that gets a chance to look up Western Canadian wrestling, then do so. I mean, there's great things that you'll find on YouTube from a lot of great professional wrestlers out our way. And then again, wrestling all over the world. There's a lot of great independent talents that people should be checking out and everything like that. One guy I wanted to mention, and I guarantee nobody's going to know this name, but the stretcher Robert Martyr is a guy that wrestles out of Florida, I believe. Had him on my show previously to have a conversation. Young guy, 20 years old, but he's been wrestling for quite a few years. He started pro wrestling while he was in high school, doing high school wrestling as well too. So this guy was pulling double duty. He watches a lot of the old school stuff while trying to blend it with new school as well. So this guy is a great mat technician. He's a great flyer. He's great at selling. His selling is just phenomenal. I think this is a talent that nobody knows yet, but give it 3, maybe 4 years, and people will start to realize who the stretcher Robert Martyr is. So go check him out on YouTube. There's matches everywhere. This guy is quite the talent and very underrated at this point.
All right. Well, I know. I mean, that's always good. Like, I'm a big proponent of always finding out who next upcoming talent are. I know we have one here at Edmonton. He just won the RCW North American Championship. I think nothing but amazing stuff out of Sean Moore. I'm sure you've probably, that guy's a machine.
You know what? Sean Moore was at our PPW show the other day. I've been wanting Sean Moore in Prairie Pro Wrestling for so long already. I've been begging for it. Worked alongside of him in HIW calling matches. This guy is amazing. And so all of a sudden I get to the show. I did not know who was all booked this time around. And someone goes, Sean Moore is going to be here tonight. I'm like, oh, well, hell yeah. Like, I can't wait. And so he got in there, mixed it up with Bucky McGraw. What a great matchup that was. But is there ever a bad Sean Moore matchup that you've seen?
I haven't. I mean,
yeah.
just to make it a conversation, I'll give him one. No, I'm just kidding. He'll find a way to make it great, I know. Yeah. But Asher did kind of come up and say, what about the Survivor Series teams? And I don't know if you actually heard about them.
I did not yet, but fill me in. You know what? We'll go from there.
Well, like, first off, like, they announced the teams yesterday on the Twitter. Which was kind of surprising to see. And I'm just pulling up, and I'll throw the women's out there first. We got Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and the first ever Queen's Crown tournament champion, Zelina Vega.
Okay.
A lot of people were, up in arms that Toni Storm wasn't picked. I'm going to throw out a suggestion here. What happens if Doudrop is to replace Rhea Ripley on this team? And then Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH are to defend there's women's tag team champions against the tag team of Toni Storm and Tegan Nox.
It's an interesting take on it for sure. Why not?
Because, I mean, I know we're going to have 2 guaranteed female matches on Survivor Series, one being the elimination match that we just said, and then also the, champion versus champion, which hopefully they don't throw titles at each other for the win. It's just like, it's so random. Yeah, it really was just out of the blue. Here are the teams. I agree. But what were your thoughts about, like, hearing about that team? Are there anybody that you're just like, why not this person?
No, not in particular. But you know what? I'm so done with Survivor Series. It's not even funny. I hate the Raw versus SmackDown aspect of everything right now. And so this whole Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series just does not do it for me. I mean, essentially you get some matches that are like, oh, that's a cool matchup between this guy and that guy when we got AJ and Brock and stuff like that. I mean, sure, you got some good matches out of it, but as far as like Survivor Series, this used to be the fun of booking, this heel faction or this top heel guy picking 3 guys of his buddies backstage to take on this baby face and his 3 buddies. This just mixes heels and baby faces that are fighting for their brand, and the brands don't matter because they swap them all the time. So it really kills the luster of what Survivor Series used to mean, in my opinion. Just my thought anyway.
So I gave you the Raw one. I haven't given the SmackDown one.
Well, let's hear this one too. Let's go.
I kind of messed. So the SmackDown is Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi, Natalya, and Aaliyah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is where the Toni Storm was it, because she is a SmackDown star. Everyone is like, Aaliyah, why? I'm gonna put this one out there. I tend to almost be okay now with the fact that we got that person, because if there's one person that probably understands which one of these aren't like the other one kind of scenarios, it's probably the talent themselves.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that we're going to probably see maybe Aaliyah try to kind of have the match of her night, or kind of the performance of her career kind of the thing. So I'm curious to see if somebody like this is really taking it, to that utmost another level. I like it when I see a breakout performance. I think it's really cool to see a breakout performance. If this leads to a breakout performance from Aaliyah, I'm all for it.
Here's the thought. How much you want to gamble the setup here with putting Aaliyah in the match is to make everybody go, oh, here's your fall person. Here's the one that's going to take the first fall for Team SmackDown. And yet it's going to be a big surprise. It's going to be Aaliyah ends up rolling up and pinning one of the bigger members of Team Raw, shocking the world in that instance, and ends up being maybe a survivor of her team, or at least going the distance before Raw ends up conquering them or something like that. It's going to be one of those shocks WWE tries to pull.
Well, and then again, you can go the other way, because I believe it was just last year where Lana was the sole survivor or of her team.
A lot of good that did them too.
And it's so it's so weird. Like Asher said, very random. But that was the female team. So for the men's team, I'll start with SmackDown. We have none other than Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, the King of the Ring, King Xavier Woods, Sami Zayn, and Happy Corbin.
Oh, I'm happy for him.
Going up against Raw's team. And this is where I find it really funny if you know the history. You have Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Ray and Dominic Mysterio.
So this is where that whole meme about Seth Rollins and the injuries that he's placed on his teammates here, then that kind of thing. I saw something about that.
Last year, he did kneel down and sacrifice himself for the greater good.
Yeah. Oh, this is so WWE right here. That's what it is. Who do we have?
This is a team where he's like
together.
Yeah, like this is a team where he's literally tried to injure, if not has injured, every single one of his teammates in the past.
Yeah. How does Ray feel about losing his eye to this?
and again, a lot of people are like, well, why isn't Edge a part of this? And that is something I wanted to say. Despite what I think of Raw being really good, we haven't seen Edge on Raw in the last 2 weeks. So it's actually quite interesting of how good I thought the Raw has been the last 2 weeks, and we still haven't seen the Rated R Superstar.
Very true. And is that necessarily a bad thing? Like, save Edge for maybe a big feud, big match. He just came off that thing with Seth Rollins. Maybe they're just waiting. It's time to wait and see who you got next and build it up, and not slap something together for Survivor Series just to put Edge out there.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that it would be awesome if the team just beats the tar out of Seth Rollins to the point he leaves, and then Edge just comes in, because one, I would love to see Edge and Rey Mysterio team up again. And it's just like, I don't know. If it was Edge, Owens, Balor, Mysterios, that gives me a little bit more of a throwback to how the old school Survivor Series teams kind of used to be. And I'm getting a little bit more okay with that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's Canadian content, right?
Oh, of course.
I mean,
I've got a root for Edge in there, right?
How can you be against that? But I don't know. Like, it just seems now that when Survivor Series used to be like multiple elimination matches, now we're just getting 2, 1 for each gender. So, what do you think of Survivor Series? I know you talked on how you don't like the Raw and SmackDown thing, but how they've almost kind of re-evaluated on how the pay-per-view actually goes now.
Yeah, and I mean that's the rough part for me, because I was a fan of the way it used to be done, and I think going back to that tradition would be nice. I liked the multiple matches and not having to worry about champion versus champion. Again, like even with that, like why can't they have the Raw champion pick 3 people to be on a team, the SmackDown champion pick 3 people, and have the multiple elimination matches? I think that was one of the most exciting parts of Survivor Series, was sitting down and finding out who will be sole survivors, which teams will dominate, and just having fun with it. It was a fun pay-per-view at one point in time, and now they try to take it too seriously with this brand war, and it just not quite the same touch that it used to once have.
Yeah, like I have no issue with WWE wanting to do a pay-per-view between Raw and SmackDown. I think that's kind of cool, like a bragging rights kind of thing that they did have. But maybe not like just mere weeks after the brand split. That kind of seems forced. Plus, again, like I don't know if you really want to make Survivor Series that pay-per-view now when you know you have something unique already that kind of made Survivor Series special. Also, I'm going to throw this one out there. What happens if we see the in-ring debut of one Gable Steveson at Survivor Series?
You might have to fill me in on who we're talking about here.
It's an Olympic gold medalist, Gable Steveson.
That's the dude that was at WrestleMania or SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, yeah.
There, okay. Now I know who you're talking about.
And he was drafted to the Raw, and I know the belief is that when he signed, he still wanted to make sure that he finished his schooling, and that was a priority over anything else. He was on an episode of After the Bell, and he talked about how he had offers from the NFL, the UFC, WWE, and other people, and one of his priorities was he wanted to make sure he finished school. He wanted to give the Olympics, I think, another go there as well. So very cool to see that. But Survivor Series is a pay-per-view known to have a little bit of history, seeing people debut the first time, whether it was The Undertaker, whether it was The Rock, which I think a lot of people kind of forget. But I think it's kind of cool to see that tradition maybe continuing, and it'd be cool even if it's a one-off, Gable Steveson making his in-ring debut. I'm going to throw it out there. Give it to me against Chad Gable.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, that would be pure athletic wrestling, and I'd love to see it. I hope when this guy does debut and stuff too, that they've got him nice and ready. Like when Kurt Angle picked up on it so quickly, he came out and he looked like a top talent when he stepped in the ring for the first time, and he just got it. And if this guy gets it, man, I remember looking at him at SummerSlam and thinking, this guy looks like a world champion in the future.
Yeah. You know what looks like a world champion? Our weekly calendar of Love Wrestling. I'm just going to play it out there because it's a plethora of shows and content, just like the WWE. They also have a plethora of content. So I'm going to bring it up right now. Tonight, you got Josh Robinson spotlighting Jamie Hayter on You Have It in this week, but we got a lot of shows. Monday, Can He Spell? Find out. On Poetry of a Promo, hosted by the Wordsmith. On Tuesday, your Love features double feature with Power Out and NXT hosting with our beautiful Astrid, the Natural there. And then Wednesday, Josh Robinson takes over Love Wrestling on the Twitch. And then on Thursday, you got a double slam of Mark and Friends in Between Two Beards. And then on Saturday, the Weekend Elite Report, followed by a preview of Full Gear. And then you also got Sunday Brunch. You got Blowing Off Stream. You got Turnbuckle Talk, Turnbuckle Rewind, all the Spencer Love interviews. I mean, dude, we are kicking the week's ass already, and it's not even started yet. I mean,
and massive props to those new graphics and stuff like that. Those look phenomenal.
Zach, who does a lot of our graphics, I always want to make sure we give him a good shout out because he does a lot of amazing work with all this stuff. So good shout out there. Kind of wrapping it up now. Bobby, give us a little bit of just a little bit of a preview of pure Prairie Pro Wrestling, and kind of let us know how we can find you, because I know you guys are just started getting shows back up, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was last weekend. We got back to live shows. So again, I have the content that I have to go through and get edited for our YouTube channel, so we can eventually get those matches out to you, the fans. In the meantime, though, again, my regular podcast with Papa Smokes has been going wild there over on the Video Bros Network. That's Ring Respect Radio, where we just did a little bit of talk of Prairie Pro Wrestling and doing some fantasy booking. We went back to April of 2020 where we fantasy booked 5 people each that we'd like to see in Prairie Pro. We look back on where they are today and pick 5 new ones. And guess what, Parrish? You were my number 1 on that one pick.
Well, I appreciate that. I saw that, and I couldn't have been more appreciative of that. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, hopefully one day we can make this happen. I am more than happy to drive through the interesting route that is highway or the Yellowhead onto Saskatchewan. So,
Yep.
but yeah, no, always good. It's been way too long.
It really has. Yeah.
Like, also, yeah. Also, I just want to make sure if people aren't aware of this, but there is a website where you can go to rate the podcast, and that is ratethispodcast.com. And you can go to /Love Wrestling CA, and you can give us, a nice little rate of Wicked. I don't know if that's what they call it. It could be 5 stars. It could be, a check mark, but just say, yeah, just say yes on Love Wrestling, please. It'll help us become a number 1 podcast, which we aspire to be. And, we hope that we're giving you guys great stuff. And if by chance you were on the YouTube and you're like, wait, I always hear about your Twitch. What is your Twitch? Well, it's just twitch.tv Love Wrestling CA. Very simple. Love Wrestling CA across the boards. And if by chance you're like, hey, I'm starting a YouTube page, can I follow you? Yeah, you can. You can go to youtube.com/Love Wrestling CA. And then by chance, if you're like, okay, cool, you got all these platforms, but I know that sometimes, you're rocking things like this wine cooler. You're rocking things, I don't know, like the Sunday Brunch stickers. I heard that you even have fanny packs and a new shirt, the Live, Laugh, Love Wrestling shirt. Can you tell me about those? And I was like, yeah, they're on sale at lovewrestling.ca/shop. Go there, check it out, pick up some good stuff. It's November. You want to make sure you get your Christmas shopping done early. You don't know how much inventory is actually going to be held this time. I'm hearing that things might get sold out a little quicker, so you might want to act a little faster. And lovewrestling.ca/shop is a great idea. And you know what? Maybe you want to do some things for yourself. There's always these New Year's resolutions coming in. Start today and you go to RK Athletics 1 and work on yourself. Work on maybe whether it is your fitness, whether it's your nutrition, whether it's your dietary information. All I know is Rich from RK Athletics can help you with that, even if it's not one-on-one, online, amazing online presentations. He has a lot of ways where you can connect with him. So make sure you check that out. As for me, I always have my socials. I think you guys know them by now. I've been on 3 streams in a day and a bit now. I think you guys are tired of that. So with that being said, I'm just going to say go to lovewrestling.ca and support us because we know you love doing that and we appreciate that. So thank you so much for that. And Bobby, thank you for joining me for the last hour and 8 minutes right now. Who'd have thought we could have got this out of there, not knowing what in God's green earth we were going to talk about. So we got through
like
it.
A good Canadian hockey game, we went into overtime.
Yeah. And we even had to pull out that McDavid magic just to get there too. So yeah, no, thank you so much for taking this journey with me today, and thank you everyone for spending an hour and a bit with us today. And have a good Sunday. Watch some football, NFL football. As I know, Bobby is a soccer fan, so football is a little different for him. But yeah, no. Whatever you do, make sure that you stay happy, you stay healthy, but you love wrestling.